What's going on, everyone? So I want you to walk with me for a minute. I've seen this vision in the near future, not necessarily this year, right, but in the near future of Luka Doncic, De'Andre Ayton, right, a Theiro, a Arthur Kaluma, and then a Darius Bazley. Just three athletic, versatile, two-way wings. That's why I said in the near future, right? When those guys have developed, at least serviceable three-point shots. You just got the athleticism, the size, 3'6'9" athletic wings, right? The vision's there. And if you can get those guys to really kind of buy in, lock in, but that's the type of kind of unit that I want to see at some point for the Lakers, right? In this post-LeBron era, right? Whenever that is, in a year, 2 years, right? Rich Paul kind of cleaned up the mess and the noise, right? So to me, I really want to see that type of vision. And the Lakers are clearly headed in that direction, right? They're clearly trying to get young, athletic, versatile, kind of two-way wings, which we've seen you cannot have an abundance or too much abundance of in this league. And, Lakers got a guy in a Theiro who was as high as 15th on many draft boards. Right, the guy was, looked at as like a clear-cut first-round pick. Well, why did he fall, Tyler? A lot of it was just age and injury, right? Teams usually like the 18, 19-year-olds, maybe 20-year-olds. Some people might look at it and go, yeah, but he's 21. Again, that's the difference, right? Dalton Connect was on many boards as high as a top 5 pick. Everyone was shocked that the Lakers ended up landing him at 17. We've seen Cam Whitmore, right, who was 20 years old, fall all the way to, 20th, 21st, right? So again, it happens, right? And the Lakers getting Theiro, if he can get right and get healthy, the guy is a hyper athletic, excellent slasher, can create a little bit, be that lob threat alongside Luka, already looked at as an NBA level defender. It's unfortunate we're not really getting to see him in Summer League, but he's a guy that can defend, in theory, 1 through 5. You're seeing Arthur Kaluma, right? Again, another 6'8", sizable 225, athletic, versatile wing that just showed the ability to knock down the three ball. He just shot 50% from three-point range. Right? Definitely, again, a work in progress. Needs to work. But, you saw him in summer. He's defending guards and then switching on big men and holding his own against big men. And he just looks huge, right? Kaluma just looks massive out there. And so, again, you kind of see that vision. Darius Bazley is out there just, doing everything. Being that Swiss Army knife. Definitely needs to work on his three-point shot. But he's a guy that, again, defending 1 through 5, taking guys off the dribble, right? Blocking shots. He had 5 blocks at last night's game. You can see the potential vision of just Luka Doncic and De'Andre Ayton, which I think is going to be the best offensive duo in basketball this year, right? De'Andre Ayton was 4th in efficiency in the pick and roll. And that was on Portland, who didn't have a true playmaker, right? Imagine what he would be slotted alongside Luka Doncic, right? The guy is that pick and roll action is probably going to be the best in basketball, right? That two-man game is probably going to be the best in basketball. Last year it was Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. Luka Doncic is better than Cade Cunningham, and De'Andre Ayton is better than Jalen Duren, right? So the idea that those two being kind of this offensive driving force, you need it, right? And then on top of that, if you can add in 3 long, versatile, athletic, kind of two-way wings, I think that the Lakers could easily be, a real title contender year after year after year. Again, this isn't necessarily this year, but I'm talking about kind of the vision that you can see the Lakers trying to go. Because, I see a lot of times, what's the Lakers' plan? What do the Lakers do? And I think it's clear, right? We've seen what works with Luka. Right? How did they get to the finals? They had Luka and Kyrie, 2 guys that could score, create, do all that stuff, right? And then they just had defensive versatility around them. Well, what would be great, right? Having 3, 6'8" to 6'9" guys, but they have to develop shots, right? Kaluma has to develop a three-point shot. I'm not saying he has to be 40% lights out, but he's got to be, good enough to where teams respect it. Same thing with Bazley, same thing with an Theiro. Right? Now, maybe it's Austin Reeves, but I like the idea of just that athletic, versatile, Luka's going to be your engine. As long as you have Luka, he is your offensive driving force. He's going to take his 20 shots a night. He's going to score 30 points a night, and he's going to generate, whatever, 10 assists, 8 to 10 assists a night. Like he by himself is going to create 70 points a night in just offense. Right? He's going to go get his 30, and then he's going to get another probably 30 to 40 in just assists and play makes, right? And especially with guys like DeAndre Ayton, I think, I don't know about this year. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he's like a 20-point-a-game guy, but I think once, we get, assuming it works out with Ayton, right, I think he will get back to being that, 22, maybe 23 a game guy. I don't think it's unrealistic. Again, the guy was an 18 and 17 guy without Luka. Imagine what he is. I mean, for his career, he's a 17 and 10 guy. You don't think he can get another, 3 baskets a night playing alongside Luka Doncic? I absolutely think he can. And then again, if you can get an Theiro, Kaluma and a Bazley, 3 guys that can, create and take guys off the dribble and shoot the basketball. Like you want to talk about positionless and switching, and I think that would be ideal as far as like what the Lakers are trying to create alongside Luka. That's the long-term vision here. And even if it's not a Bazley, Theiro, and Kaluma, right? Like the idea of that. I'm just using them as the example because those are the guys that are on the team, on the roster, and you can, again, visualize and see the vision of that, right? So, even if it's not those guys specifically, going and getting those type of guys is, I think, probably the best route for the Lakers. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, who else is going to create? Right, you got Luka as the only creator, right? Like only shot creator, right? Like who else in the starting unit, right? Obviously bench depth, but you can find a bench scorer or something like that. Talk about specifically the starting units, right? Like you can go get a guy, like, hey, you need a bucket off the bench. You can find somebody like that, right? But that's the thing, like you have 3 guys in Theiro, Bazley, and Kaluma that all can take guys off the dribble, all self-create. Now, can they do it to the NBA level and the NBA standard you need? That I don't know. That we'll see, right? Like, but if even one of them do, let's say Theiro does become, a guy that can, an Andrew Wiggins-esque, right? Just kind of using him as an example, that can create, take guys off the dribble, knock down the mid-range. Maybe it's Kaluma. Maybe it's, Bazley. Maybe it's one. All you need is one of those guys to be able to be good enough at handling the basketball and being able to create, kind of turn into like a Jaylen Brown type even, right? Like that would be great. Saw it alongside Luka and DeAndre Ayton, right? Especially with the new NBA, new CBA and all that stuff. You're going to have to find what works and what fits. And again, with the Lakers and having Ayton and Luka as your building blocks for the future, that's going to be more likely than not your primary offense going forward. Right? Again, assuming Ayton works out, it's very possible that he just, can't get out of his own way and continues to stay in his own way, and that ends up fizzling out. But there's also a version of this where he does work and he does fit, and that 2-man duo is again the best in all of basketball, and you have that as like your offensive engine and force. Well, what do you need alongside those guys? Right? If Ayton's giving you 23 a night and Luka's giving you 30. Right? You don't need another 30-point-a-game guy. You need guys that can get stops, that can rebound, do the dirty work, that can defend at a high level. What's the best way to win multiple championships? Right? Score 120 points a night and be the best defense in basketball. Right? Especially into the modern NBA. With a version of that Luka Ayton with Bazley at the 4 and, Kaluma at the 3 and then, a Theiro at the 2. Having that kind of versatility out there, that switchability, that defense, that size, that length, right? Again, especially if those guys can just be, I'm not saying they have to be elite shooting the basketball, but just good enough, right? Can all 3 of them get to 37% from 3-point range? Because now you're going to be able to generate enough offense. Obviously, again, you're going to have to round out the rest of your roster, and you're going to have bench depth and all that other stuff. But the best way to, like, what do you want alongside Luka? You want athleticism, defense, and shooting. It's what you need, right? Like that, if you want to have success with Luka, that's what you need. Why? Because again, Luka doesn't have the athleticism, right? He doesn't have the defense, and he's going to be the guy on ball that's creating for everybody else. So you want guys that can spread the floor and shoot, so he has the outlets to kick out to. Like, so if you can get those sizable, versatile wings that can defend multiple positions, all defend 1 through 5, all be, all with a 7-foot wingspan plus, right? Like, that size, that length is going to be able to mask Luka in ways that other teams can't, right? That's going to be able, even if Ayton, let's say, he wants to be a defensive anchor. He wants to be a better shot blocker, rim protector. Let's say he buys into that. Again, you might be the best defensive team in basketball, even with Luka Doncic, right? Teams are going to try to exploit Luka on the defense side of things. They're going to try to hunt him and switch hunt and all that stuff. Well, again, if you have a bunch of 6'8", 6'9", long wingspan, 7-foot wingspan, hyper athletes out there that can all make sure that they can fight through screens because they're big, strong, physical, get through those screens, defend, right? Like, now you're cooking, right? I see the vision. I'm excited for the vision. Obviously, this year we'll see how the roster shapes up and stuff, but I really like the idea of hey, let's get a bunch of young, athletic, long, versatile wings to just put out there, spread the floor, and defend at a high level. I think the Lakers are brewing something here. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.